shoot some steel because that's fun. So valuable. Being able to manipulate the weapons, to know how they work. Like, you know, I go home every time I shoot and I just chat with my wife. Like, I can't believe everybody's not doing this. I think of Bitcoin kind of like the Taj Mahal of freedom. It's this just big, beautiful, abundant land of freedom. And you can have economic activity where no actor has an unfair advantage over someone else. If you're aware of the rules of the game, you can engage in the game and do so much more successfully. Most people are completely unaware of the game that they're playing. But I think the game ultimately is how much Bitcoin do you end up with.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another Build In El Salvador interview. And today I'm here in Florida with my man Eric V. Stacks, shooting some guns out here in the Everglades. Eric, dude, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man, thank you. We got fucking bugs. This is like real jungle tactical training, dude.
Yeah, it's hot as fuck.
Can you keep your dot acquisition where it needs to be while you have bugs in your mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess to start it off, what are we doing out here?
We're exercising our Second Amendment rights.
I like it.
After spending my whole life in California and watching the gun laws get progressively worse and worse and worse, one of the first things I did when I moved to Florida was sell a bunch of California compliant pistols and firearms and buy all the modern real shit and start go shooting it, man. You know what's funny is after the first day I went out with Alex Stanchek, who's a firearms instructor, Bitcoin educator, advocate, awesome dude. I was driving home. I'm on the phone with my wife. I'm like, oh my God, I don't understand why everybody's not doing this.
Yeah.
This is it's such an important skill to have, to be able to like use firearms. And it's fun.
Yeah. And so coming out here with you, I'm rusty. I haven't shot in a while. Obviously, you've been putting in the work, the practice, because you're just killing it out there. Like, what does that look like for you as far as training firearms?
Well, first it was like a whole mission down the rabbit hole to become like, you know, proficient in understanding all of the equipment. You know, it's like, it's very nuanced. I wanted to get a new rifle. There's a fucking 100 different models. And I'm a tech guy. I kind of, you know, I'm a gear guy. I like to get down into the weeds with the gear. I forgot your question.
As far as like, what does it look like you training wise? Like,
oh yeah, so I procured
all
all this modern nice gear, and then I started messing with it in the house. Just, you know, back gear on in my office, drawing from a holster, acquiring the dot. And then I'd be going once a month to the range with Alex and like 10 other shooters and ran serious drills. My first couple times I was on the range with him, kind of like with you. I'm like, all right, let's do a mag exchange. I'm like, fuck, I don't know how any of this stuff works. It was quite overwhelming and it's intense. I was at Homestead at a different range. Dude, it's loud. It's kind of like a war zone. It's bang, bang, bang from every direction. You're like fumbling through the gear, like trying to figure out how this stuff works. And then it's also serious. You don't want to shoot your foot or shoot someone or whatever. But it's addicting. And like, once you have those moments of like pulling the gun out and shooting one on target, it's like hitting a golf ball well. Like that feeling is like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, this is a Build in El Salvador interview. And part of why I wanted to talk to you today is because this whole, you know, I guess you can call it controversy over BIP 110.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people in El Salvador are talking about it as well, all the Bitcoiners there. And so, you know, I know you, I've met you, and you've kind of become to my like go-to philosopher, someone who can take complex ideas, break them down pretty simply and communicate them effectively. And so, you know, I want to get your take on what's happening and see if you can kind of add some clarity to that.
Whew, that's a really big question. I will say last year when Matt Cratter started making YouTube videos and he was talking about the concern around CSAM getting inscribed on the blockchain, that was something that I hadn't thought about that completely shifted my perspective. Prior to that, I had a free market perspective that a lot of people have. Like, okay, if you have inscriptions, you got demand for block space. If the block space is too expensive, you're going to just drive people to use L2, Lightning. So that's actually going to accelerate the adoption of Lightning. As people are using Lightning, it'll free up block space in the main chain and it'll hit some sort of market homeostasis or equilibrium. The free market will work out what that block space is worth. I hadn't thought about the potential of putting some really bad imagery on the blockchain and the implications of that. And so the first time I heard someone talk about the CSAM concern, that immediately got me concerned. And I was thinking,
Can we break down that concern? And I'll
Yeah.
just tell you like my perspective of it as, kind of amateur following this space is if you got CSAM on the blockchain, then you got it on everyone's node, and that makes everyone kind of liable for that in a way,
yeah,
which
yeah.
makes the Bitcoin network a target.
Yeah, and I think, I've heard individuals like Jameson Lopp and, the core supporters, which there's a handful of the core supporters who you would say would be more credible figures that have an argument for 100,000 kilobyte op return that for the life of me, I can't understand. I don't get it. And I'm not a super tech guy. It has something to do with knowing the unconfirmed state of a transaction. I think Citria, for some reasons, needs that large op return. There's some Lightning developers who I've spoke to said that there is value or benefit in that. In a way, I couldn't regurgitate.
So for layer 2 uses,
that's what I've heard. But my big concern is if I look at this, if we take a Boothian perspective, if this thing is decentralized and secure, it's imposing a new discipline on our civilization. As like some people would say, it's a checkmate on the liars and cheaters of the central bankers.
it's a new rule set.
It's a new rule set. It can't be gamified. And so if you have a monetary protocol that you can't game or bend, to benefit yourself at the expense of others, the powers that be in the world would have to, this is kind of where I think about how Booth would answer this question. They would have to attempt to castrate this thing, bastardize it, or just flat out destroy it. And so I've heard the more credible core supporters say that like the argument over CSAM is silly because it's not technically illegal to have that on your node. If you didn't put it there and whatever, I can't even regurgitate the argument because I think it's nonsensical and doesn't make sense. Can
I stop you right there? Let's just look at both sides, right? So I guess BIP 110 proponents are looking at Bitcoin as purely a monetary network, and it should be kept that way. And I guess the other core proponents are saying, hey, like we can use this for other purposes as well.
Yeah.
Not just monetary purposes. And therefore, let's change the op return limit.
Yep. Like Gloria, there's a famous clip of Gloria Zhao, I believe is her last name. She was a lead maintainer for Core. And there's a clip of her, I forget who was interviewing her, it doesn't matter. She's like, if you don't like cat pictures or JPEGs of monkeys, and you want to say that's not a valid transaction, that's kind of like your problem, right? Like that's, if someone wants to pay to put that on the blockchain, that's a valid transaction. My issue with that, and I think everybody who supports BIP 110 and wants to keep this thing lean and mean and keep it purely monetary, is and I forget who it was, someone early on made a quote that said, effectively, you would have infinite demand for cheap data storage. And so if somebody pays a one-time fee to inscribe something on the blockchain in op return, they pay one time and that piece of data is now going to be stored on 50,000 nodes, 100,000 nodes, maybe hopefully millions of nodes in the future someday for free forever. So that does create an issue, and the core supporters would say, well, if they're paying for it, it's legitimate. But then you have some pretty intelligent knots and BIP 110 advocates that are saying that could potentially be a death by 1,000 cuts, and you would lose that pristine monetary use case by putting a bunch of data on the blockchain. That gets really nuanced, and for me, the thing where I'm the most concerned is you do have sick and twisted people in this world. And if somebody put a large CSAM op return on the blockchain, you would create all sorts of issues. You have a group of individuals who are watching the blockchain who would like to reorg the blockchain and take that block out, which that would have a whole negative implication. If you reorged or removed a block, you'd have a bunch of flutter around this thing's not censorship resistant, it's not immutable. Because if you did that early enough, you could successfully do that from what I've heard. The other element to those is you'd get people to self-censor, and you would just kind of create a scummy look. I could see it right now, like CNBC, they're interviewing JB Diamond, and he's like, oh yeah, you fucking idiots are filthy animals. Like, this is why I've been saying that this is a garbage protocol for however many years. And on that note, I have started to come to the conclusion, at least a safe assumption, that some of the most prominent Bitcoiners who have done a lot for Bitcoin are either ignorant or fraudulent.
Really?
I listened to Jack Cruz's keynote speech in Prague. Watching what's happened with Adam Back and some of his tweets, he's getting into pissing matches with all these people. And I'm reading these tweets and I'm just like, this doesn't sound like the same Adam Back from 5 years. This doesn't sound like a sovereign-minded cryptographer. This sounds like somebody who's now grappling with the system as a whole. It's almost like somebody gave Adam Back Zuckerberg's PR firm and was like, hey, we need to rebrand this guy. He's got his blazer on, his fucking sunglasses, going around on CNBC. And this is where it's the treasury company thing too. All right, Bitcoin's great.
Two coiners, basically.
Turn it into two coiners. Bitcoin's great. You should buy this treasury stock.
Yeah.
And that's really concerning.
What do you think about then, like Simon Dixon's take, which would be something like, hey, you can't interact with the fiat system. You can't have one foot in fiat and one foot in Bitcoin because that system will compromise you. It will eat away at you, compromise your values until you get absorbed by it and you're a shell of who you were.
I think Simon Dixon has become one of the only people that I will listen to these days. Not that other people don't have interesting things to say, but I think he has nailed it in his message. In some ways, he's like a orange-pilled Whitney Webb. He knows all the details about Palantir and the people and the fucking corruption and the lies and the deceit and whatever. But his message, the core thesis of his message that I aligned with and I have believed for a long time is if Bitcoin is what we all believe it is to be, then it's going to be attacked. There's going to be attempts to co-opt it. And you have to think too, there's a new game being played on planet Earth. And that game is how much Bitcoin do you have? Most people are unaware that they're even playing it. And people in Bitcoin are doing things with the treasury companies, the borrowing against your Bitcoin. I love the ETFs. These are all not what this was all built on and the ideology and the original mission, but also expected. If this thing is going to be successful and it's going to demonetize all these assets in the world and become global capital, it has to go through this process. But the way I think as a very adversarial, risk-adverse individual is whether the independent individual market actors that comprise this whole system are aware or not, the system is going to try to shake you out of your Bitcoin. That's why I'm really adverse to these lending platforms. I wouldn't say I'm adverse to them. I'm a free market proponent and maximalist. And I think they should exist, but I think people should be very careful.
Yeah.
There's an incentive for there to be a flash crash and shake you out of your Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
There's an incentive for them to blow up MicroStrategy if they can. So I just look at it like everything that you're doing in the world today is about earning or retaining your Bitcoin. And you have to be you just have to be vigilant because crazy things can happen. And if Bitcoin is what we believe it to be, then crazy things have to happen.
For sure. Like you got to have an adversarial mindset, right? And if Bitcoin is what it is supposed to be, then naturally powers that be are going to want to co-opt it, attack it. And so you have to be vigilant.
Yeah.
And you have to be wary of your own coins too. I mean, we have a whole history of scams and people getting rug pulled for you to kind of be aware of that. But still, it seems like people are gravitating towards more of the Bitcoin TradFi products and stuff like that. And is that itself causing a problem? Is that centralizing Bitcoin, like parts of the network, to a point where it kind of, keeps things unbalanced, where certain attack vectors then expose themselves?
Yeah, I think it has to happen. Like Bitcoin needs to move through the existing financial system and through the state. And the idea of being like, no, we shouldn't have treasury companies or we shouldn't have ETFs, it's very idealistic. And I think that if Bitcoin's going to succeed, it has to move through the process that it's going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think of like knots and 110 as like an immunological response from the immune system, from the ecosystem. It's a response, whether it's an orchestrated attack, and people seem to believe it is. Cruz just did a nice keynote on this. whether it's orchestrated or it's just a byproduct of the nature of the system. And I think I love how Booth says this. You have a debt-based monetary system that has to debase. The natural state of the free market is deflation, and you have this monetary protocol that's measuring it with a supply cap. Now, those two things are like oil and water, they don't mix. And I do have a lot of respect, but I'm also suspicious of Saylor and Mallards and anybody who's grappling with the fiat system at that level, because I don't know how you can interface with the fiat system. I mean, you're just effectively, I look at it like you're on the front lines. You're on the front lines. And to make it through that, like we're going to see some of these treasury companies blow up, whether they were ill-intentioned initially or not. You're playing fiat games. So for me, for example, like I didn't pay my truck off early. Like I love this truck, and when I bought it, I was making a surplus, and I'm like, I could pay this truck off, or I could buy more Bitcoin. I'm 4% APR on this truck. I'm getting whatever the annual average is on the Bitcoin. Like that's my leverage. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pay the minimum payment on the truck, and I'm going to stack more sats. I'm not going to go to Ledin and borrow against my Bitcoin, because if I would have done that, and actually I'm sure many of us were sitting there thinking at 100K, oh, that's 100 fucking K. We should be at like 400 right now. Not a bad time to borrow against the Bitcoin. I'm on the phone with a buddy of mine a couple weeks ago, month and a half, 2 months ago. And he's like, fuck, it's the middle of the night. He's on the other side of the globe. He's like, dude, I'm about to get liquidated. What should I do? Should I post more collateral? Should I not post? That's the game you're playing.
Yeah.
And Dixon says this really well. I'm going to botch it, but it's something along the lines of like, if you're aware of the rules of the game, you can engage in the game and do so much more successfully. Most people are completely unaware of the game that they're playing. So if you're aware of the game that you're playing, I think you should be able to take all this risk. You should be able to borrow against your Bitcoin from Strike or Ledin or whoever the fuck. You should be able to buy treasury companies. But I think the game ultimately is, how much Bitcoin do you end up with? That's why anybody's buying MicroStrategy. I've talked to 100 fucking people plus over the last couple of years about MicroStrategy. Why are you buying MicroStrategy? It's to get more Bitcoin, right? It's a leverage play on Bitcoin. It's all about getting more Bitcoin or keeping your Bitcoin or whatever.
Yeah. Seems like the easiest strategy is probably just buy and put in cold storage, right? But
yeah, DCA in, and I've needed to sell some of my Bitcoin over the last year. It's been a life transition. I retired from being a cannabis grower. I moved here to Florida. I escaped commie Florida, and like the decision-making process around even doing that was like, I don't know, year and a half, a very deep spiritual inward journey. Dang, like I got this, I could just sit here in Humboldt County. I can continue to grow cannabis. I'm fucking tired of it, but I can do that and I'll be rich. And then, but I'll wait and I'll wait. And it's like, the reality is I can't get my time back. I can get my spending power back. And like, this is a money. What's it for? Like, and so anyways, I DCA out, I DCA in. It's real simple. I've played the game of being like, yo, I need some money to do this thing. Fuck, I'll just wait until the last second. It's like on a Friday, I'm going to sell some Bitcoin. I need some money like next Wednesday. I wait till like Monday night. And like, for me, I don't know, but every time I've done that, I've gotten punished. And now I'm just like, I just do it. I don't even think about it.
I think a lot of people know that, that feeling.
Yeah, dude.
So, all right, going back to BIP 110, how serious is this? So is this similar or on scale to the block size wars? Should people be concerned about it? Like, what's your perspective here on how just, your average person who's, likes Bitcoin, understands the thesis, but doesn't dive into the technical aspects of, what keeps the network running?
Yeah.
Like, how should they look at this? Should they just ignore it and just kind of just sit on their coins and just see what happens? Should they pay attention? Like, how big is this?
Oh, I think it's a bigger deal than the block size wars, because we're in a different era. Now we have the ETFs, you got the treasury companies, you got Michael Saylor hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. It's a whole different game than it was when the block size wars happened. And I think if you were the CIA, FBI, you're, a representative of the central banking cartel in whatever capacity, and you're dealing with the fact that you have this immutable, indestructible monetary protocol, it would not be hard to get a guy like Andrew Bustamante, CIA agent, and put them. And like, I just think that something like that, unless we're all delusional and Bitcoin is not what we think it is. If Bitcoin is what people believe it to be, and it seems to be, then this thing would have to be, there would have to be attempts to infiltrate this thing. There would have to be attempts to centralize this. And I think we can see that you have centralizing force with the nodes in core 30. That, as far as I'm concerned, with this large op return, the nodes, it takes more computing power to run a node because you have more UTXO, you got the UTXO bloat issue. If there was a CSAM op return mined, I'm sure there were a bunch of people who would just unplug their node because they don't know the legality around it or whatever. It would be public FUD like a motherfucker. You have a centralizing force trying to centralize the holding of the coins. You have a centralizing force trying to centralize the mining. So I think this is a bigger deal than anything we've had in Bitcoin's history because the stakes are higher. But I also think like this is the process that would have to take place. But and I'm not a super tech guy. I don't get off learning about Lightning and like I'm not like I have verified my own transaction. I'm like, oh fuck, I would never send a transaction without verifying it. That's not I'm not a tech guy. But I run a node and I run knots and I run 110. Because it's one of the things, this is like in some sense too, the most, I don't know, it's a very real, or it's a version of democracy where your vote actually matters in a way it doesn't in the traditional world. I don't think it matters that much what politician you vote for, but you can really you can have a positive effect with your vote by what form of software you're running and if you're running 110 or not.
Yeah, you're reinforcing economic reality, right, with your node.
And it's not that hard to do. And I think anybody, like when I know of Bitcoiners that have been in Bitcoin for a long time, they have a lot of Bitcoin, they're influential, and they don't run nodes. That's always been one of those things for me, like, why just run the node? Like, how much do you care? You know? And part of that, I think also in defense of anybody who does that is it's very easy to think, this is why Bitcoiners talk in like certainties. It's so probable this thing succeeds, but the job's not done.
Yeah. And I guess the way you're putting it, there's an order of operations for it to succeed. And part of that order of operations is just going through these attacks. And we need to be aware of it, not naive to it, and be vigilant and do what you can. So, the Bitcoin network comes out of it intact.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you handle a 90% drawdown? 80% is the traditional 4-year cycle or whatever. I'm not a chart bro. I don't know. Let's call it 80%. Like, it wouldn't be crazy to think that there would be some sort of major global economic disaster and you could have a 90% flash crash. Are you going to get liquidated? Did you retire earlier than what you should have because you thought you were going to capture a 10x every 4 years, right? So these are things that I would just be careful. I would take the conservative play. There's something also for me, it's like spiritual, metaphysical, almost religious about Bitcoin. It's like, I have my faith in a higher power. Like, where else am I going to fucking put my money? Like, I know too much. Oh, BIP 110 and core and knots. I've talked to some people who are like legitimately concerned. Like, oh, I'm going to sell a bunch of my Bitcoin at this date and I'm going to divest. I'm going to get in this business. I can't do that. I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin for Apple stock, Palantir, gold, real estate. Like, I know too much. So I'm going to ride this motherfucker to the bright orange future or to an apocalyptic Mad Max situation. Like, I'm not jumping ship. There's nowhere else to go. So with that, it's also why I'm running a node and running knots in 110.
Awesome. Well, cool. I think as far as the BIP 110 debate, I guess we're going to see how that all turns out. But thank you for breaking it down. So I do want to go over what you got out here.
Yeah, let's get some guns. Implement firearm safety. Treat every firearm like it is loaded. So check this out. So I sold a bunch of California compliant stuff, which is cool. It's guns, they go bang, but I got some nice modern stuff here. We got Glock 19, most common handgun in the world. That's a Gen 5 with the Streamlight light, aim point acro, a closed emitter, red dot. And I got a 16-inch Daniel Defense AR-15 with a 1 to 10 LPVO. another acro red dot at 12 o'clock position for quick acquisition up close. And then I got an 11.5-inch Geisley Super Duty, which I would argue is probably one of the most reliable, well-built rifles on the planet. Got a couple custom things, the grip, the mag well. I got the Unity fast mount, so a tall mount, so you got a little more comfortable heads-up shooting. Hux suppressor. Then, of course, you got to have your battle belt. And mag pouches, dump pouch, med pouch.
Dope.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get up to speed as far as with all the gear, all the equipment?
Like a year, but I'm a pretty extreme personality type. I wanted to know literally everything, different buffer springs, triggers, basically why are people running things the way that they do. And it's a very nuanced thing. You have, and the evolution of stuff has changed. You got quad rails going down to M-lock rails, the way things are set up. So yeah, and it's been, I spend my whole life thinking about Bitcoin, talking about Bitcoin. So to be able to focus on something else that is fun and relevant has also been refreshing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude, not only that, but some drills, some shooting drills that you've been showing me out here.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, so we've been running so I've learned this all from Alex Stanchek. I got to give credit where credit is due. When I got here, like I said, I sold some guns and started buying some new guns, and I was thinking to myself, like, gosh, I would like to get involved with a group of people who go out to an open range like this and actually run real firearms drills. You go to an indoor shooting range and you got a little box and you stand there and you bang, bang. It's not the same. So I met Alex and went out shooting with him, and I remember my first time I'm out there. We were in Homestead. It's fucking loud. It's wild. There's gunshots everywhere, like you hear now. There's much more of them. And he's like, all right, he's got the shot timer, draw. You're shooting, and you're running transition drills like we were doing earlier, where you're like rifle, transition to pistol. It's a lot going on. You got the safety, the bolt release, bolt catch. And you make sure, obviously, you're not shooting something you don't want to shoot. But running those drills, I kind of almost didn't even like it at first. So I was like, can we just shoot some steel because that's fun?
Mm-hmm.
So valuable. So valuable. Being able to manipulate the weapons, to know how they work. I go home every time I shoot and I just chat with my wife. Like, I can't believe everybody's not doing this. Of course, and it's kind of a masculine thing, protect and provide. My wife kind of likes it. Like, oh, my husband can blow some shit up. That's cool. Yeah, it's fun. It's just like,
it's awesome.
Shocks me that more people don't take the opportunity to be serious about it. It's kind of shocking. Well, this country was founded upon, freedom and sovereignty, and the Second Amendment's all about making sure that the government doesn't encroach, and you should be able to protect yourself from outside invaders or your own government.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to come out here to run the drills, to get familiar with the equipment. But I can also see why not so many people take the opportunity. Yes. It's hot. It's a long day. We're getting bit by bugs.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Cool, dude. And so real quick, you got your YouTube channel back up, right?
Yes, I do. I have, I'm taking it very casual. I'm not beholden to anybody. I don't have any sponsors or a schedule or whatever. So, I'll be doing things randomly, but I do have a 4-hour long, very thorough conversation with Matt Cratter that I just put up a couple weeks ago. And I have a few more episodes coming out over the next few weeks.
Dope. Yeah. So I listened to that. I don't listen to 4-hour podcasts a lot, but I listened to that. That was an awesome conversation that you had. It made me aware of just how serious this issue is with BIP 110 and what's going on in Bitcoin. So I really appreciate that. And then not only that, but I learned about Matt Crowley. He did a great job asking him questions about his personal life. I learned kind of, his upbringings to, the industry that he's gone through, the people that he's known, it gives you a good perspective of who he is. And now seeing him take the position that he has just adds so much more credibility to it.
Yes. Yeah. Cratter has been one of my favorite people to learn about Bitcoin through over the years. And one of many things that I like about Matt is there's no economic incentive for him to promote this versus that or whatever. I kind of look at there's two camps. There's people that want to keep their money and or they just have high integrity. And then you got people like David Bailey as an example, who just wants to make a shitload of money, who's either fraudulent or ignorant. Because if you're in support of the ordinals, you're either fraudulent or ignorant. The ignorance is death by 1,000 cuts. Bitcoin cannot be a data storage solution for any fucking person who has a computer access.
All right, before we wrap this up, I do have one last question here. Can you steelman their argument then? If they're, you know, if your position is, hey, they're either fraudulent or they're ignorant.
Yeah.
You know, do they at least have some sort of reason behind their position?
I think it's optionality, functionality, and a free market perspective.
Okay.
I think it's that, like, hey, if someone's willing to pay for the block space, there's actually it's like block space. There's not a lot of demand on it right now. So I've heard a few of the core supporters being like, look, everyone thought that when we had ordinals and inscriptions, it was just going to cause all this bloat. Like, it's still cheap to send a transaction on the main chain. That I think is foolish, though. I think you're setting the stage, you're changing the protocol so that you can do other things with it. And I'm personally, and I think a lot of the plebs can relate to this. Free market. Like, I think that drugs should be legal. I think that states that limit you to a 10-round magazine or don't let you buy an 11.5-inch barrel, like, that bothers me, right? But we need to fix the fucking money to save the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I think of Bitcoin kind of like the Taj Mahal of freedom. It's this just big, beautiful, abundant land of freedom where you can have the entire planet and infinite people can live there, and you can have economic activity where no actor has an unfair advantage over someone else. Let's not draw dick pics on it. Let's, like, you know what I mean? Like, when you go into a cathedral in Italy, go to the Cathedral of Milan, like, they're not going to let you roll up in there with a backpack full of spray paint.
I think
like, there's rules. That rule isn't censorship.
Yeah, I think another way, well, the way I think about it, at least from what you're saying right now, is that, you know, we should keep Bitcoin sacred.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we have an opportunity here to fix the money. When you fix the money, you change the incentives. The world realigns around those incentives. Those incentives are much more rooted in truth. They're grounded in some core principles and values. And so why are we going to fuck with that?
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and I kind of reiterating, I think it's expected that people would be trying to do what they're trying to do. The immune system response, the core and the knots thing, like 110, like, that's expected. So I'm both very concerned, but also, like, at the same time, not too worried about it.
Cool, man. Well, I think that's a good place to end.
Yeah.
Thanks for the interview.
Yeah.
And thanks for all the lessons today.
Let's put some ear pro on real quick. Some steel before you turn that off.
Let's do it.
Because there's as far as I'm concerned, one of the most satisfying things is hitting a fucking steel target with a 5.56 from 100 yards. Boom!
Nice. That's a fucking way to end a podcast. Let's go.
Yeah, huh? Haven't done that too many times. Wrap up the pod with some 5.56.
All right, y'all.
Yeah. Peace.